Hello, Opening Pathways viewers. This is Tom Lenoble. It's great to have you with me again. I have a treat for you today. Shane Barber is with me today, and Shane Barker is the founder of TraceFuse.ai, and I can't wait for you to hear about what Shane does. Shane, welcome to the podcast.
Tom, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about it. I've been thinking about this all day. I've listened to your podcast for a long time, and here I am. So I'm honored.
I'm great. It's great you're here. Tell us what TraceFuse AI is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So TraceFuse.ai, really the concept behind it is pretty simple. What we do is we help Amazon sellers actually remove critical reviews, or what we call critical reviews, or 1, 2, and 3 stars. So any what we call negative reviews. So our goal there is to help, once again, even the playing field for sellers. Our thing is that there's reviews that come in. We're really looking at reviews that violate Amazon's guidelines. So they mention competitors' pricing, cussing, or anything like that, or anything FBA related. If Amazon shipped it out and somebody, was commenting on the shipping and not on the actual product, but it was a product review. So those are the main things that we focus on and that we're really looking at. And our goal is, once again, is to be able to help sellers keep their sales up, get their BSR where it needs to be, and once again, help clean up those listings and make sure they get the sales.
Awesome. I want to know, what was the moment that you said, this is my path?
Yeah, that's a great question. That was, it's funny when we started TraceFuse, when we started, at least with the concept of what we wanted to do there, it took me about 2+ years to crack the code. And what I mean by that is, in theory, think it's very easy. You would, click a report button, you file a case with Amazon, they remove the review or don't remove the review. But there's a lot of nuances to that actual process. And so, I thought it was going to take a few weeks, maybe a few months max. I was a little too cocky, I would say, going into the fight. And then what I finally realized was like, hey, guess what? This is actually going to take a lot longer. This actually took us just over 2 years. So at that point, I was starting to kind of waver on whether I felt like this was the right move or not at 2 years. There's a certain point as we have that hustle mentality, like keep going, and which has always been my mentality. But the problem with it is, what does that mean, right? Am I 1 month away? Am I 6 years away? Like how much more, financial money, time, and resources can I put towards this with not knowing what that potential outcome is going to be? So I'm a very optimistic person by nature. So I'm always hey, let's keep going. I know good things are going to happen. But I will tell you, my pathway came just after that 2-year mark, after we were doing this. And finally, I was going to my dev team and we were going back and forth. And finally I said, hey, I think we're there. Like everybody was kind of like that aha moment. We all realized, hey, this is happening. And guess what? All this hard work and the time that we put into this, now we can implement this and take this and give it to sellers and kind of go from there. So it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, viewers, Shane is sharing some important information with you today. You're hearing what he's saying is, you're right there on the edge, and, it feels like it's never going to happen. And so many people I know I talk with in my practice are right there on the edge and ready to retreat. And you got to hang in there because you've worked so hard on it. And there it is when you don't know it, because all of that comes true. It all will happen. Just stick with it, right?
Yeah.
So I want to know, there's something about Shane that started a long time ago, just like all of us, that put us on a path, somebody who influenced us. There's a backstory here. Who was it in your life that sparked this?
Yeah, so there, I've had a few different players or people that have come into my life that have helped me, head out in this direction. I think one, obviously, being my mom. My mom has, always been a mama's boy, and I say that very pridefully because I love my mom to death, and so she was an impact in my life, obviously, and the same thing with my dad. My dad was also very impactful, very loving family. Grew up in California, raised by hippies, so we were always a very hold hands, hugging type family. I still am. I'll hug anybody that will give me a hug. I mean, I don't care who you are. So, that I was a very much a loving family, and I think that was a good thing for me just to see, to continue with the love and keep that and really doing the right thing. I think has always been kind of instilled in me of like, hey, money is one thing, and you do need money to buy things and to do things and enjoy life and experiences and stuff, but it's not the end all be all. And when I was younger, my mindset was always, oh, I want to make $1 million. I was always impressed with the people that made big bucks, and so that was always, as a young kid, oh, I got to make $1 million. Now, obviously, as you get older and you get more mature, and that wasn't necessarily once I hit the mark I wanted to hit. even if I didn't hit it, it wasn't, I realized, hey, there's bigger things than just, materialistic things and cash and stuff. And not to say that I don't like cash and I don't have, some materialistic habits potentially, right? But at the end of the day, it's lessened in the sense that if you do good, in fact, I know if you do good and you do good towards people and you build a business with helping being your number one thing, the money and all that will come, right? I mean, and good things will happen if your heart's in the right place. And I truly believe that. And so that's always been kind of my mantra is like, if you do good for people and you treat people right, good things will happen, whether that be cash or that be whatever people you meet in your life, you just never know. But I'm more of an abundance mindset, right? I put that out there for the world. And if I'm helping 10 people and if somebody comes and helps me, that's awesome. But it's not a tit for tat thing for me. It's like, hey, do good things. It helps me sleep at night. It helps me be able to help people. And guess what? That really, at the end of the day, that's what makes me happy.
Yeah. I'm curious, what was it? Was there a moment? Did something happen that defined your leadership style?
So what's funny? So my leadership style, this is kind of a funny story. I don't know if you've ever heard of this in elementary school. I don't know if they still have it, but there was a thing called the GATE program, and it's called Gifted and Talented Education. And I never really thought of myself as really like a genius or anything, and I'm not a genius by any means, but just like when I got when they would do testing for it, and so they came to me and said, "Hey, you excel in leadership." And I'm like, I'm like a 7-year-old kid. I'm like, what does leadership mean? Like as this, when I'm doing these testings. Well, I tested very, very high in a leadership position of getting people to, like maybe being charismatic and stuff. And I feel like I'm bragging about it, but it was just something that I feel like I had a kind of the gift of gab. And I kind of was like, which could be, you can use those things for bad, for good or evil, right? And so I think me being raised the way I was raised and saying, hey, do right by people, and guess what? You can help people. That's always been my thing, right? Leadership has always been, hey, something that's come pretty naturally to me. Not to say that I haven't fumbled along the way, that I was amazing at delegation or all these other things that were definitely things that I learned as leadership. I was like, I might be a great leader, but I'm going to do this myself. Well, when you work 18 to 20 hours a day, you start to realize maybe that's not the best thing, right? Who are you leading? You're leading yourself into probably bad health, right? So that's not a great way to go. And then delegation was something that I learned that really changed, a number of things in my business, because now I can delegate it and I can, know that people, and I can, develop my team out. And I know that, hey, if I'm going to go on vacation for a month or 2 months, that my team has everything under control. So that was something that was leadership is great. People follow. That's awesome. But then again, how do I also empower them? Right. We want these people to feel empowered and be able to give them the power to make the decisions, to be able to treat your business like it's their business. And so I've been very, very lucky over the years to learn a lot of those lessons.
Yeah. What values are non-negotiable in the company?
I mean, for me is doing right by the customer. I mean, that just, that's non-negotiable. I mean, we do, not to say every customer is correct, right? I mean, I want to make sure that we distinguish that. But at the end of the day, if we're going to do what is going to be best for the customer, right, is what is going to be best, as long as it's not putting us in harm's way, it's not going to be putting anything, we want to say, hey, what would I do? The way I've always explained to people when they sign up with us is like, I'm going to treat your business like it's my mom's business. I'm going to go back to my mom here. And so, right. And it's like, and I like my mom, as I already told you earlier, I like my mom a lot. In fact, I love my mom. So I treat every business like, guess what? This is going to affect a family member, right? And so I treat everybody with that same respect. And I expect that also from customers as well. We've also had customers that we've had a little bit where they say things or treat my employees a certain way. I don't put up with that either, because at the end of the day, we're here, we have a service. And if you have unrealistic expectations or you're mad about something and you push that on my employees and you say crazy stuff to them, I also don't put up with that either. I think, we're all humans and we should be respectful of who we are. And, once again, at the end of the day, I'd like to have that line of love of where, hey, if we all treat everybody with respect, if you're frustrated about something, let's have the conversation, but don't cuss at my employees or go sideways or
Exactly.
do anything like that. Yeah, we won't put up with that. I don't care if you're my biggest client. You have to treat people with respect. And we do the same thing with our customers, treat them with nothing but respect. We don't always have to agree, but the idea of it is we look at this and say, hey, if this was my business and something like this happened, how would I feel in their shoes? So we always like to look at that and say, okay, what's best for, once again, usually what's best for the customer.
Yeah, I love this. I love that you stand by your employees. I'll always stand by that employees are the most vital asset we have in a business. So, Shane, did you ever say no to growth because it wasn't aligned?
Yeah, actually just recently, I'll kind of give you a little backstory to that. So I had a company that we grew to 130 employees, and which was awesome. But what I didn't realize, because I've always been get more clients and do this and be bigger, and that's always been my mantra. Hey, get on more stages, do whatever I need to do. What was interesting though is I had an office in two offices in the Bay Area and one in Sacramento. Sacramento was our headquarters. It was about a 15,000 square foot office. And I thought about, because of opening these other offices, that our sales would double and triple. But that didn't happen. And so what happened was I ended up taking on more responsibility and the growth didn't make sense. But for me in my mind, bigger was always better. And that just isn't always the reality of the situation. So what I have done with TraceFuse is there's other companies that do like or kind of like an ancillary product that we could buy them, or right now we do the US, Canada, and UK. Those are the US platforms. We could break out and do the UE, and we could do whatever, Denmark, or I mean Germany. There's a lot of bigger things. The problem with that is we have 600 customers right now, and we have 1.9 million active sellers just on the US platform. So the way I looked at this, the problem with it is usually the old Shane, right, would have been, hey, we got to grow bigger, we got to do this, we got to do this, and I would be growing this big old thing. What I've really done, and I've literally told 100 of my clients this, and it's very hard for us sometimes to listen internally. You can tell somebody it's great to counsel or consult or coach, but it's sometimes hard to listen, take your own pills. So what I realized was like, why am I going to try to grow this thing big? I literally have 600 customers, brands, 1.9 million in total. Just hyper focus on this. Just make this be the main thing that you're doing, where you don't need to go and grow this thing. I mean, you're going to grow this way. You don't have to grow this way. So what we did is, instead of bringing on other products and doing consulting and all these other things, that it would make it so that instead of focusing 100% on reviews and removing reviews just on the Amazon space, I would be focusing on these other things. It would divide up my time, and I wouldn't be really what we're at today is the number one company to help Amazon sellers remove reviews. So that is, instead of going out, we decided to go forward and really niche down in one thing and not focus on all the other things. So that was a hard lesson for me to learn.
Amazing, amazing. Tell me something. What did the early days teach you about trust?
Mm. So trust is something that, obviously, as we talk about trust, is something that is earned, right? And what I did realize as a kid growing up is that trust is very hard to get, but it's very easy to lose, right? And I think that it's, you realize when you build trust with whatever that may be, with your family, with friends, or whatever, it can be, you have to think about whatever you're going to be doing and the consequences of that, and how is that going to affect people. And so that was one thing that I didn't really realize, depending on the magnitude of somebody, and also opinions, right? I mean, I can do something and you can say, hey, that, you just messed up the trust. And I go, well, let me explain why I don't think that messed up our trust. And there's a conversation that can happen there. But really, at the end of the day, I think it was just how hard it is to get and how quickly you can lose it. And that was kind of a life lesson for me to look at that and say, okay, what can I do to not make that happen? I worked
Nice.
so hard to build that trust, and what do I need to do to keep that trust?
It's interesting, isn't it? So I have a question. We're in this time where technology seems to be racing forward. I've seen a lot of technology, and I don't know, sometimes I think that it builds on each other. We wouldn't have had the things we have today if we didn't have the things that preceded it. And then suddenly it becomes outdated. Like I remember when we first got email and we thought it was saving our lives. And now we're like, what do I do with my inbox, for God's sakes? I'm curious how you balance the latest innovation in technology with sustainability. How do we keep building the new tools and yet keep the lights on?
Yeah, that is, we talk about, ADHD or all the other fun, shiny things that come out on a daily basis. AI, we've only been doing this podcast for 30 minutes, and I'm sure there's some crazy update with AI that came out that you and I both didn't know about. So, at the end of the day, it's when we really look at this and the things that are happening, how do you focus? Because I'm very good at ADHD and looking at 10 million things, and we got to do everything. When I was younger, I have to be on Snapchat, I have to be here, and I have to be this. And it's like, wait a second. What I finally realized is, just because you're doing all those things doesn't mean you're doing things better, right? Like, once again, if you really, as we talked about niching down before, like just focusing on negative reviews on Amazon instead of going Walmart and doing different, platforms and stuff, really it's the same thing with this. Like, what do you need to do to just focus in on the things that are going well? So the things that were going well for me was my blog, because we had a great amount of traffic, a lot of articles on there. LinkedIn, because I'm more B2B type, business. Obviously, we work with TraceFuse, we work with, Amazon sellers. So that's what I realized is like, I never even created a Snapchat or really created anything, because there's always more. But once again, you're really spreading yourself out. There's only so many hours in the day that you can work. So if you have 10 different platforms and you're trying to do content for 10 different platforms, no, there's ways to streamline it. You can create a piece of content that you can share on multiple platforms, but trying to keep up with everything, you're only gonna be a deer in headlights. So really focus on the things that are going well for you. If you want to try a new platform, give it 6 months. I'm going to be consistent about putting content up there. Expect what that expectation is going to be, what you want your goal to be, or what you want that outcome to be. Great. And if that doesn't happen after 6 months, you make a decision on whether you want to continue that. But figure out how much time you're going to be spending on that. And that's, once again, if you want focus on one thing, you have 100%. I call it the Care Bear stare. I'm looking at 100%. I do the Care Bear stare. If anybody remembers that the show, they would focus in on one thing and stare. Great, you know what you're working on. When you start diluting that and you start going, I'm 10% here and 8% here and 12% here and 6% here, unless you have a team, then guess what? You got to figure out, once again, what are you worth, and where are you going to spend your time, and how much time are you going to spend on these other things, whether it be software or new technology that's coming out.
Yeah, viewers, that's worth a rewind and listen to the Care Bear stare again. That was some
That's
wisdom
it.
Shane was sharing with us here today. So, Shane, tell me, how do you know when to pivot or when to push through?
Yeah. Yeah, I hope I have a good enough answer that we can change the world. I mean, that would be awesome. It is hard. I mean, I think really what it comes down to is we talk about time and resources and money. So, if it's a situation that you truly believe in something, and you're spending your time, your resources, and your money, that's totally fine, right? I mean, if you have a bigger cause, but there are certain times where you have to evaluate if you're not, covering your basic needs, whether it becomes food or, whatever, a place to stay or whatever that is. You have to really take a look at. There are certain times where you're going to need to pivot. And I think what I always do is I always talk to people outside of, because you're in the middle of it, right? You're inundated. You're in the middle. Of course, you're always going to, in theory, want to move forward. It's always nice to talk to a consultant or somebody on the outside and say, hey, this is what I built. This is what we've done. And then once again, put some timelines on it and say, hey, I'm going to give this another 6 months, right? I'm going to spend whatever, 25 hours a week, another 6 months. Let's go ahead and give this thing a try. And then after that, unless we're 98% there, and we all know that we're 98% there, great, then we should probably pivot and look at something different. But everybody's timeline is different. You got to figure out what is your threshold for, I'm going to call it pain, but like, what is your threshold, that you can go and get something done that you can say, hey, didn't do it today, I can do it tomorrow. If you're a person that you're looking at this and saying, hey, I think I could do this for like a week, well, then try to figure it out in a week, right? If you can do that. But you got to understand, if there's a certain point where it's affecting you and your family, and in a major way. And of course, I know there's all kinds of great stories that, I had $1 more left in my account and then it took off. And I get that, but you also have to look at that and say, hey, if it doesn't take off, what's your risk versus reward there?
Very interesting. So, I want to know something. How do you personally move through burnout or moments when things are just uncertain? What do you do with that?
For me, my hidden superpower, the things that I do is I go on walks. I walk about 10 miles a day. So I get up earlier in the morning. For me, it's nice to be able to kind of get the fresh air, just being outside. I mean, I live in Reno, Nevada, so I have a little bit hills where I live, over here in the mountains. So I just go up there and do a nice little walk. The thing you have to realize, like, everything that you go through is you can get through it all, right? I mean, I honestly believe you only get the amount of stuff that you can deal with, right? And so sometimes that feels like a lot. Sometimes it all comes in at the same time. For me, what I'll do, and this happens to me like once a year, sometimes I'll go to bed at 7 o'clock and I say, hey, you know what? Today's a wash. We're done with today. I've already gotten my 20,000 lessons from today. I need to turn the page and get over to the next day so I can have a fresh start. So a lot of the times that will help me, where it's just like, hey, today's done, right? We're going to call this a little bit of an early day. I just think it's, things happen, and you got to figure out everything's perspective, right? And how you look at things that are coming at you. And it's like, hey, at the end of the day, there's a reason everything is happening. And sometimes that's very difficult for us to see when we're in the moment. But guess what? If you really look at this and say, hey, this is happening for a reason, I got to figure out why that is, and look at the positive in things, That's going to help you get to the next step.
Yeah, you're defining resilience. It's not just about
That's,
getting back up, it's about how can we grow from it. And
that's exactly it.
I'm with you on the walks. It clears my head. It's like
Mhm.
a reset button. I come back energized and ready. Sometimes I can go back at it, or I make the decision, enough. It's enough for today. This is
Yeah.
not gonna be productive. So tell me this, Shane. What impact are you most proud of, not professionally, but personally?
Wow. Personally, what is the impact? I would say for me is my level of friendship that I have for people. And what I mean by that is I think people that know me on a personal level that know that any time if they needed anything, I don't care if that's money, a shirt off my back, or a ride or anything, I am that go-to guy. I mean, I am the person that really prides myself on being there for really anybody that needs me, on a professional level, but mainly on a personal level, because I really take pride in my friends and my family and the people that I've met along the way and that have, that understand my journey and things that I've been through. And I understand that people go through things. So I'm a very loyal person. I'm like probably too loyal at times, but I also can be the opposite, that if you think that I'm just going to be loyal and you can treat me not in the upstanding way, guess what? That also I can quickly move you over to the unfriend level, and we can go from there. But for me, it's just being loyal and priding myself on helping people and just doing the right thing.
I love this. Shane, how do you define success beyond the metrics? We all have metrics we live by, but beyond the metrics, what does success look like for you?
Growing up, as we kind of touched on, it was, finances and, oh, I've got to make money and do this. And I after COVID, I mean, I looked at things totally differently. I mean, even before COVID, but for me, it's not about that. I really value my friends and my family, and also my business as well. But my friends and my family, I mean, I look at it and say, okay, what can I do? Successful for me is being able to spend time with my friends and family. When if you had asked me that 20 years ago, that would not have been my answer. My answer would have been bigger stages, do this, start that, do this, beat this person out, do this. I was always a very competitive individual growing up. Still competitive, but not as much to where I have to win everything, right? Right. That was always my thing. Is I got a Fitbit. I was like, oh, somebody's at 15,000 steps. I got to get to 16, or they're at 40, and I got to get to 45. I was a little crazy, I would say, at times when it came to that. But for me, really looking at things and just understanding that, like, listen, like success for me is not necessarily money in my pocket, but is going to be about making everybody else around me happy and really spending valuable time with friends and family.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, it's sometimes I think about people that are after the views, got to get the views. Well, maybe you had just enough views of who needed to view it, right?
I
Tell
mean,
me, go ahead.
no, I was going to say that's a dangerous slope. I mean, when people are
Yeah, I
looking
think
at
so
those
too.
types of things, you're chasing something that what is going to be the top? When are you going to be happy? Is it 5,000 views? Is it 10,000? At 50,000? And then guess what? Your next thing, you just want to try to keep up with the last one. That's a
Yes.
it could be a challenge
And often in doing that, I think we're missing what's happening right now. There's things
for
going on
sure.
right now that could be even better than that view you're looking for. So tell me this, what's one myth or misperception about your business that you'd like to set straight?
Ooh, this is a good one. I think the number one thing is that that you can remove reviews on your product listings. I think sellers even now still are. I mean, even though we have great testimonials and some people that have obviously said amazing things about our company, it's just that it's possible that you actually can remove critical reviews, because those are the things that affect so many things. Social proof, they affect obviously what we call your BSR, your bestseller ranking. If you get bad reviews and you go higher up, which means you want to be number one for a certain category. Also, I think your star rating, it affects so many different things. I think a lot of people just think that they have to deal with those reviews because they've tried to file cases and it didn't work, and so they just assume. I had a seller one time tell me it's like having a rock in my sandal, because it's uncomfortable and I can still walk. But guess what? I just assumed that it was there, and there's nothing I could do about it. And we're here to take that rock from your sandal and take on that whole headache so you can walk normal and not have to worry about that. So that would be my number one thing for anybody that's listening. If you're an Amazon seller, it is possible because we're doing it on a daily basis.
Yes, I'm sure there are people here that are listening to that and are going, "Dear God, where were you when I needed you?"
I'm here now. I'm here now.
Yeah, you're here now. That's right. So, do you model your values in times of crisis or extreme pressure?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm so there's like as you said, there's some things that are non-negotiable with me. I just hold on to those values and know that I don't want to deviate from those values, right? I mean, that's something that was been instilled with me as a young kid, and they've helped me, get out of trouble. They've helped me not get into trouble. There's a lot of things that I take a look at. I value them like no other. I mean, might as well have them tattooed on my body. I'm so serious about that. And things that have helped me. We talk about, this is a terrible analogy. I'm going to use it only because I'm watching Dexter, but Dexter has his code, right? Now I know he's a serial killer. So I'm not a serial killer, never have been and don't plan to be, but he has a code. And so for him, his code, he needs to sit within this certain code. For me, I have my code, right? And obviously it's not killing people, it's helping people. So we're on the opposite end of the spectrums. But what I look at is like this is my core value. And if I start to deviate from that, or clients are pulling me in this direction, or I've had clients that, we've dropped clients in the past because they've been doing things that are against Amazon's guidelines. Like that is, I don't care. Once again, you're my biggest client. I can't do that. I'm not going to put myself at risk. I'm not going to put the customers that I'm working with at risk, and they shouldn't really put themselves at risk, but they have a choice to do that. But I don't choose to play in that playground, right? Like if you want to do that, awesome. Not here to judge you, do your thing, but I just can't have my name, especially in this industry. I've got to keep a clean slate. I don't want anybody to associate me with anybody that's doing something wrong. And if I find out about it, we've let clients go because of that, because it's that important to me. It's, values over money.
Yes, I love this. I've fired some of my best clients before. It's you just there's certain things where you stand by your values and what you believe
That's
in,
it.
and that's that. So tell us, what is your boldest vision for the next 5 years for your company?
Oh, man, that's a good one. 5 years, huh? So my goal in the next 5 years, and see, this is where I catch myself in a catch-22 because I want to grow it, but I don't want to go this way, as we kind of talked about. I really want to focus in on just Amazon reviews. I think we're going to just stay hyper focused on the US platform and Canada and UK. My goal would be, we do have another thing that we're looking at right now. I'm going to tell you, you're actually the first person to hear this. We've been kind of slowly working on this in the back. What we're looking at is where people, so a lot of times in the Amazon space, sellers will have competitors that will come in, sometimes from China, but they're from all over. And what will happen is they'll kind of hijack listings, or they'll come and create a similar product and try to compete. And what they do is that a lot of times with the listings, they'll go and add 500 positive reviews in 5 days, which is unrealistic and almost unobtainable. It's obviously done illegally. So what we're doing is we're going to start taking a look at, potentially looking at positive reviews, where you might have
Uh,
somebody that came on and we have a velocity of reviews is like how many reviews you get on a daily basis. If historically in this category people get, let's say, five-star reviews in a day, and all of a sudden they get 100 for 5 days in a row, then it will flag it in our system. So that's something we're looking at, of like, because my thing is evening the playing field. A lot of the stuff that we do are either people that get attacked or violate Amazon's guidelines. Now I also want to look at because my heart is with the entrepreneur. It's very, very hard to build a successful brand, and to have somebody come and do a knockoff and just come in and slam you and do all kinds of stuff that is illegal and unethical. I have a big problem with that. If they're legit and they have a competing product, no problem whatsoever. Hey, guess what? We're in America. It's consumerism. You can go and you guys can figure that out. It's not a problem. There's enough money for everybody. Abundance mindset. But if they come in and are doing stuff sideways, giving you, reviews that are knocking you down your sales, but they've never bought the product, I have a huge problem with that. That's, once again,
yeah,
you talk
yeah.
about values. Just be an ethical person and do the right thing, and good things will happen.
Now let's add some integrity to the positive reviews as well.
Yeah.
I know I've had people before talk to me back when I was working in some sites where reviews were really critical of. They would say, well, it had all positive reviews. Well, that doesn't mean that that's makes it good. You have to look a little under the cover. Not everything gets a positive review just by human nature, or somebody's not going to be happy. Tell me this, Shane. What are you most hopeful in the world today? What are you most
Well,
hopeful for?
it's funny. So the hope for me, and not to get into any political things either way, I just really hope that we could be more human. with things. I just really wish that we could be more accepting of different things, and there's not this clear division. I think that happens not just in the U.S. but in the world. Now, I don't expect for everybody to get along because there's a lot of baggage and history and things that have come along. But for me, I wish that people were a little more positive and understand that we're all humans, and we
Yes.
might not agree 100% with what your views are, what my views are, but that doesn't mean that we can't support each other and at least be nice to each other. So that is, that's obviously my hippie upbringing there that shines,
No.
but it's just be a good person.
Yeah, like we could all use a little kindness in the world today, without a doubt.
Agreed.
So tell
Agreed.
me this. I have some viewers that are watching that are looking at and listening to this podcast and thinking about starting on a new journey, maybe being a founder or leading something new. What's your words of wisdom for them?
Go for it. Go for it. I mean, what you want to do though is I want to make sure that you plan for it, right? So it's one thing to just peel off the band-aid and go for it. It's another thing to, hey, make sure you have, 6 months of working capital. It's, do your research and, make sure that this is a direction that you want to head in. Also take a look at it if it's something that you're passionate about. I mean, that always helps you to go further. And, if you're not getting money in the beginning because you're building something, you don't always have to be passionate about it, but it does help with longevity if you don't crack the code right away. I would say go for it. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it depends. Let me tell you this. If you are the type of person that you're scared to death, that this is like the biggest thing, oh my gosh, I'm super nervous about it, and I've always had a consistent job and made consistent money. And if that just scares you to death and you can't get over the anxiety of that, give it a little more time, right? But if there's a point where it's your side hustle, things are starting to go good, you're like, hey, I'm starting to make a little more money there than I am at my current job. This makes sense to transition because I have some money in the bank. I know I'll be good for 6 months. Prepare for it. Don't just go and do something erratic because that obviously you want to keep your job and keep the
Yeah.
money coming in, right? But be strategic about how you do things. And then guess what? There'll be time to peel off the band-aid and make it happen.
Awesome. Got one last question for you today.
Let's do it.
If your younger self was watching this podcast, what would you tell him?
Well, first and foremost, I would say quit being so stubborn. Hire a coach, hire, somebody, a mentor. I was very much of the mindset that, you know what, I can do it on my own. Oh, you PPCs or whatever it is, whatever SEO, anything. Why would I hire somebody? I can figure it out. Which was, the problem with that is that you do everything, right? And so my delegation was not on. I was a leader in the sense that, people would follow me, but I don't have anybody behind me, and if I'm not delegating anything, then who's going to follow you? Or there's nothing there. So what I would look at is hire mentors, hire people that once again that are smarter than you. I was very much of like this is my utopia and it's me, and I'm going to do this, and I'd hire little contractors here and there. Now I can't hire. All I do is hire people smarter than me, and it's not difficult. I go, hey, you're great at AI. You're my AI person. I want to have enough knowledge to understand how to use AI and how to be able to scale my business, but I don't need to be the person that goes in and does that every single day. And so I realize I just need to have people around me that support me. And that's where, when I can leave, and now I can leave for a month or 2 months with my wife and go on an RV trip, knowing that the people at my business are going to be smarter than I am. They know how to run the business, and guess what? Good things happen there. So Shane, quit being so stubborn. That's what I would tell Shane 1.0 from Shane 3.0 in the future. Don't be stubborn, my friend. Like, go in there, hire mentors. It's worth it. They learned how to do something. You're paying for their time, and it's going to be well worth it.
Yes, life's wisdom. Shane
That's it.
Barker, thank you for being with us today on Opening Pathways. Please tell the viewers again your company and how they can find you.
Absolutely. So I have two companies. One is shanebarker.com, which is my own personal brand. And then I also have TraceFuse.ai. And TraceFuse is, once again, where we help Amazon sellers remove negative reviews. If you took out the www on all of these and put Shane at shanebarker.com, that's my personal branding, my SEO, influencer marketing site. And then I have TraceFuse is just Shane at TraceFuse.ai. Very, very simple. Reach out to me if you have any questions about Amazon or anything in the digital space. I'm here to help.
There you go. Shane, thank you for being with us today.
Tom, thank you so much for having me. It was an
Yes,
honor.
I love it. And to my viewers, this is Tom Lenoble. I'll see you next time.